Today, we're digging into this really high-stakes crisis happening in South Korea. You've got a whole industry in trouble, and a solution that looks simple on paper, but is hitting a very, very complex wall of human rivalry. It's a huge fight over who should have to pay the price to fix it.
And that really gets to the heart of the matter here. It's a question that's way less about chemistry and a whole lot more about conflict. Because, the path forward seems pretty logical, but the companies involved, they are just locked in this bitter, bitter stalemate.
So, to really get what's going on with this standoff, we first got to look at how the whole crisis even started. And believe me, this did not happen overnight. It's been building for a while now.
Okay, let's just walk through this timeline. Back in late 2023, the alarm bells start blaring. You have this flood of cheap products, mostly from China, creating a massive oversupply. Profits just evaporate, and plants are forced to shut down. Fast forward to mid-2024, and things are so serious that the government has to step in with financial aid. And all that leads to August 2025, where, at least on paper, the major players agreed to a huge cut in production.
So, with the industry basically on the ropes, this seemingly rational, collaborative plan gets put on the table. This was supposed to be the big, coordinated solution to save everyone.
At the heart of this plan was a really significant industry-wide production cut. We're talking about chopping capacity by up to a quarter, a full 25% of the entire national output. It was a bold, painful move for sure, but it was designed to fix a market that was just completely out of whack.
And here's the clever part, how they plan to enforce it. The government and the banks set up this unified support framework. And the message was crystal clear. Cooperate with the cuts, show us you're really reducing capacity, and we'll give you a financial lifeline to help you survive. If you don't, well, you're on your own.
But, a logical plan is only as good as the people who have to agree to it. And this is where it all just fell apart. Getting everyone to agree on who should cut what, that turned out to be the real problem.
This simple analogy just perfectly nails the problem. The entire industry is in a sinking boat, right? But instead of everyone grabbing a bucket and bailing water together, the companies are arguing, they're pointing fingers, and they're all trying to make sure somebody else does more of the work. Collective action is completely failing because of individual self-interest.
And this slide really frames the two sides perfectly. On one side, you have the legacy producers, the companies that have been around forever. And they're arguing, hey, we all need to cut back together to save the industry. But on the other side, you have S-Oil's enormous new Shaheen project, which is about to come online and do the exact opposite. It's like pouring gasoline on the fire by adding a huge amount of new capacity to a market that's already drowning.
And the scale here is just staggering. The Shaheen project is set to produce 1.8 million tons of new ethylene. To give you some perspective, this one single project threatens to undo a huge chunk of the nationwide cutbacks that everybody else is supposed to be making.
Now, S-Oil's argument is that it can use most of this new output internally for its other products. And this chart shows that's mostly true, about 72% of it. But that still leaves around 28% that it has to sell on the open market. And that is a massive amount of product that will directly fuel the supply glut that everyone else is desperately trying to solve.
And this quote from an industry insider just perfectly captures the frustration. Rivals are accusing S-Oil of free riding, basically getting all the benefits from the painful sacrifices everyone else is making without having to make any of its own. It's this deep feeling of unfairness that's stalling the entire rescue plan.
So, with the voluntary plan completely deadlocked by this rivalry, the government decided it was time to change its role. It's moving from being a facilitator to being an enforcer. The time for asking nicely was officially over.
So the government is now targeting a specific region, the Daesan petrochemical complex, to serve as a test case for this forced reform. The idea is to start here, create a model for how this can work, and then roll it out nationwide, whether the companies like it or not.
And this really shows a huge shift in strategy. They're using financial support as a carrot, while also wielding a pretty big stick. They can actually tweak fair trade laws, the rules designed to prevent monopolies, to encourage mergers, basically forcing companies like Lotte and HD Hyundai to combine. It's a much, much more heavy-handed approach.
But let's move on, because here's the thing. Even if the government could somehow wave a magic wand and fix this rivalry, there are much bigger, more fundamental problems lurking just beneath the surface.
Just look at this chart. It's stark.
Industrial power prices in South Korea have shot up by almost 70% in just 3 years. Their electricity now costs 15% more than what people pay at home. What this means is, even if companies cut capacity, their basic costs to operate are becoming totally unsustainable compared to their global competitors.
And these points, they reveal the really uncomfortable truth. The industry isn't just in a sinking boat because of a market glut. The boat itself is full of holes. You've got this tough domestic business environment, confusing regulations, inconsistent policies, and all of it has wrecked investor confidence and made it almost impossible for these companies to adapt.
So, all of this brings us to today, where the entire industry is standing at a critical crossroads. Seriously, the decisions made in the next few months are going to have consequences for years and years to come.
So, there are really two ways this can go. In a best-case scenario, the government's Daesan project marks the beginning of a real, painful, but absolutely necessary transformation that makes the industry stronger. But the worst-case scenario, it's just another Band-Aid. Another short-lived fix that deals with the immediate problem but completely ignores those deep structural issues, just delaying an inevitable decline.
And so, in the end, we're left with this one big question. The government is trying to impose a solution from the top down, but the real problem is this bitter fight between rivals at the bottom. Whether one can truly fix the other, well, that's what makes this story so fascinating, and its final outcome so completely uncertain.